Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm Elena Olson, Program Associate at the Current Family Foundation in Snowy, Wisconsin. It's great to have you all here today to participate in our webinar. I'm excited to introduce Victoria Matthew and Jimmy Gandhi as our presenters today. Victoria is a Senior Program Officer for Faculty Development at VentureWell. She designed and currently leads the Pathways to Innovation program, the faculty development and institutional change strategy that focuses on the integration of innovation and entrepreneurship in campus ecosystems. In that role, she convenes a community of over 300 faculty from 50 institutions through an array of custom in-person and online convenings. Our second presenter, Jimmy, is an assistant professor in the Manufacturing Systems and Engineering Management Department at California State University, Northridge, and is also the director of the Ernie Schaefer Center of Innovation and Entrepreneurship.
Okay, so let's get started. So you know who I am, you know who Jimmy is, and so Elena, let's go to the next slide. So as Elena mentioned, I work at VentureWell, and some of you may be familiar with VentureWell. Our goal, our mission, you can say, is basically to help young science, well, all science and technology innovators solve the world's problems. And we do that in multiple different ways. Some of the programs actually work directly with the innovators. For example, we run the I-Corps program with the National Science Foundation. We also have an E-Teams program that works with student teams. And we have various interventions for faculty. We have a faculty grants program. Our annual conference is coming up next week, which is going to be hosted in DC. And then today I'm going to be talking a little bit about a process that we use in a program called Pathways to Innovation. And Pathways is basically a faculty development institutional change initiative, as you can see here. And the whole goal is to really integrate innovation and entrepreneurship across the entire university ecosystem. Not an easy task. I know you all know. It's really tough work. When we designed this program, we really leveraged a lot of data we pulled from a literature review around institutional change and faculty development. And we also really pulled in something called collective impact, which really talks about leveraging the power of a network to do really difficult things. And this is a really difficult thing. And so this is the Pathways Network. We actually have a whole community of 50 institutions. And so I had the pleasure of meeting Jimmy because he's one of our Pathways institutions. And you see that they're spread all across the US. We've got a couple of teams in Puerto Rico and a team out in Hawaii. Next slide, please, Elena. Okay, so this gives you kind of a very, very brief introduction to the Pathways program. So we start out with basically a campus assessment so that people that are starting to do work on the campus really do understand what's already in place, which is really quite critical. So in terms of, courses, programs, as well as expertise on campus. So really, what is the network that you can leverage on campus to make this change happen? There's then a strategic planning process, which leverages the strategic doing process, which we're going to be talking about today. And then there are different tools to assist with plan implementation. And then finally, of course, network collaboration, which really wraps around this whole thing. We've definitely heard from teams that being part of this network has really benefited them a great deal, just the exchange of ideas, the collaboration on projects. But the tool that we're going to talk about today, the strategic doing tool, they've said is something that's really helped to accelerate the progress on their campuses. So we hope it will do the same for you. Next slide, please, Elena. Okay, so strategic planning, right? So this, I saw this when I was putting together the slide deck, and for me, this is how I felt for a long time about strategic planning. You go in a room and you spend an hour talking about your mission and where to put the comma, and then it can be really quite an arduous, grueling process. I see Jimmy smiling because I know Jimmy's endured much the same thing. And our goal is to move away from that. We don't want these grueling moments and a plan that you develop and stick on a shelf and forget about for the rest of your days because you don't want to deal with the post-traumatic stress. Next slide, please, Elena. And this is another image that I had to share with you because the thing about strategic doing and any kind of strategic planning process, you pull together a group of people. And I know your students have felt this way, and I'm pretty sure you probably have too, right? Just, sometimes you feel like you are the only person doing the work. Like, what is going on? What is wrong with the rest of the team? And so this is one of the reasons I think this process is really beneficial. You won't feel alone with this process. Next slide, please, Elena. So strategic doing, you're going to find today, is very action-oriented, and we're going to be diving right into action after this brief introduction. It's highly collaborative, and it's really based on the idea of pulling together a team with their assets. So everybody's digging in and really getting this work done. It's outcomes-oriented, unlike strategic planning, which you can spend a ridiculous amount of time planning and not as much time doing. This goes on a 30-day cycle that's really about thinking then doing and thinking then doing. So it's very outcomes-oriented. And because of that very swift cycle, it's very agile. So actually, it's really quite suited to any of us in the entrepreneurial space. Next slide, please, Elena. So this is where we're going today. We've got a lot to get done. Just so you know, typically strategic doing, when we do this with the Pathways teams, they usually spend several hours over the course of a couple of days doing this work. We're going to try and cram it all into an hour and a half. And also for Pathways teams, usually there's follow-up afterwards throughout the course of the year just to keep things moving forward. But we just want to give you a little bit of a taste of it today. So you can see here how all of the time is spread out. And we're going to be timing you through each of these different activities, as well as introducing you to all of the different activities. And if you scoot to the end of this list, you'll see that you'll actually be preparing a strategy map. And so this is something that you'll be sharing with us at the end and showing the great, fabulous ideas that you've come up with in this very short time frame. But it's also something that you can share out with other stakeholders on your campus if you feel like it's ready for prime time. So I think we're ready for the next slide, and then I think I hand it over to you, Jimmy.